Hello everyone, Manithral here with the OSRS weekly update video. Now this week we do have some more poll changes, also with death feedback changes as well. Poll 71 of course, and this week it's going to be continued on with their relentless pursuit to change the game, or fix it and make it better. But this week is going to be focused on the Gauntlet and the crystal crafting Hunlef hunting minigame found in the depths of Profundus. So there's the crystal pickup messages. The messages that play when receiving crystals in the Gauntlet are now filterable. This does not affect the messaging for getting crystal shards from monster drops. Crystal staff max hit. All tiers of the staff have had their max hits slightly increased significantly. Not slightly, but significantly. The vials in cooking, filling vials and cooking food will now happen in one tick while in the Gauntlet. Additionally, if you have learned the Barbarian Smashing technique from Alfred Grimhand's Bar and Crawl, and it is enabled in the settings menu, you can automatically smash vials in the Gauntlet as soon as they're empty. There's a Gauntlet map changes. They have a little diagram here. The inner square of the rooms are now less randomized, and you will always contain the same basic resources required to move on the additional rest of the Gauntlet. Note that this does not apply to the Corrupted Gauntlet. In addition, demi-bosses are now easier to find in both versions of the Gauntlet. They will now spawn in 6 of the 12 highlighted areas on the map above. So as you can see 6 of the 12. Right there's 3, right there's 3, 3, and 3. And then, of course, it gets more focused as you go in. Crystal Armor resource changes. We have reduced the number of resources required to upgrade your armor in the Gauntlet. Front-loading the bulk of the costs in the early phases of the minigame. Under the new system, the legs, helm, each costs 1 resource of each type to upgrade to Tier 2, and 2 resources of each type to upgrade to Tier 3. The body costs 2 types to upgrade to Tier 2, and 3, bringing the total cost to 39 resources overall. There is some graphs below here, but it's basically what it just tells you right there though. It just slowly increases overall, because you got your bodies and then you got the legs. It's pretty well explained with what was just said. But you can check out those graphs to further get some idea. Crystalline Hunleaf attack style indicators. There's a little bit of a difference, so if you guys are just listening to this, please check on over and look at the video here. There is the animations now. The Crystalline Hunleaf will now play a new animation with the sound effect before it changes attack styles. Lastly, from Poll 71, we have the Mythical Max Cape. But yeah, do note the differences in the attacks. Kind of just like Jad, it's important. Now the Mythical Max Cape. You can now create a Mythical Max Cape by combining the Mythical Cape and the Max Cape. Stay tuned to poll number 71 for the upcoming weeks, including some big changes to the Grotesque Guardians. Okay, so death mechanic feedback. Toxic items will now allow you to choose how many charge items to use when recharging instead of always taking them. Various keys are now automatically protected on death to ensure that the players are less likely to lose their items in an area they needed a key to access. Check the items kept on this screen to see exactly how your stuff will behave when you die. Ava's Attractor and Accumulator can once again be lost upon PVM death, as their special protection was no longer appropriate. The retrieval order from the Ultimate Iron players at Zulrah have been adjusted. The game's notional values for the herb sack and seed box have been increased, making them more likely to be protected over items on death. The game's notional value for Eternal Slayer Ring has been decreased so that it's closer matched for the Eternal Gem's value. And it says there is a number of details in the death blog, so we'll head over there right now actually and get you guys some more of that. But before we head into that, just one last thing for this part. There is a chat filter changes. As a reminder, the changes to the in-game profanity filter that were discussed in last week's blog have been implemented. Now for the death changes, the blog here, there's not too much, it looks like, that actually changed from the initial. If you really do want to, though, if you go to the blog, you can actually scroll through and look at the entire thing. However, the most recent changes are actually at the top of this page. But it does say at 1730 BST, players who die in the wilderness who had an existing gravestone outside of the wilderness will find their new gravestone will be moved into the wilderness. This behavior is similar to the way the gravestones on a trainer behave. If your gravestone was on a trainer, a new death will result in your grave being moved to the location of your new death. At 1835 BST, players attempting to reclaim Amulet's Glory 6, including the trimmed variant from Death's Office, will find that there's a small reclaim fee per amulet when they have 10 or more of them stored. And at 1850 PM BST, they resolved an issue which caused items in the gravestone to be deleted when dying in the Gauntlet. And for June 26 changes at 1240 BST, if the player dies while fighting Cerberus, the gravestone will now appear outside of the boss room. Some items such as the Serpentine Helm and the Toxic Blowpipe will no longer become uncharged on PBM death. They resolved an issue where players were unable to access their gravestones if they die on the spike traps in the Underground Pass. Existing gravestones will now only move to the new death location if the location is in 20 plus wilderness. At 1347 PM BST, supplies such as food and potions will no longer transfer to an existing gravestone on death. Instead, they will be dropped where you die. And at 1444 PM BST, fixed an issue where food and potions were disappearing after a death in place where an item retrieval service would normally hold them. And in other news, the Darkmire login screen has been removed. Divine Potions icons are now bigger and match the look of normal potions. The animations of certain items used for luring have been disabled on PvP worlds. A new set of adventure pass has been added for selected new players and will be available after they complete Tutorial Island. The Combat Tutors dialogue has been improved, fixed an issue with Chambers' Xeric points were not being awarded in certain challenge rooms. A new message will appear in your chat history when you pay a gardener to protect your crops. This message is filterable. The Mining Guild gloves will now protect you from belladonna damage despite having no stats. The instance limit for all floors on the Hollowed have been increased from 10 to 15 players. The animation for fixing the bridge in the Hollowed will now show the same hammer you are using. The Hollowed ring, hammer, and symbol are now correctly labeled as members' items. The description of a Hollow Focus and hammer have been updated to better reflect their new effects in the Hollowed. The North Path Fire Trap on floor 4 of the Hollowed will now have the slightly different pattern for its first 2 rotations to make it easier to figure out the current position in the cycle. The agility XP gained from the treasure encounters on floor 5 of the Hollowed have been reduced from 100 XP to 80 XP. Fixed grammar issues in a message in the volcanic mine. The monkeys have gotten a bit boisterous, causing a tree in Karamja to topple. Crowded fights will no longer cause the Nightmare's broadcast messages to be truncated. So that's actually it for this week, guys. So thank you guys so much for watching.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe down below. And until next time, later guys.